Hey guys, Omni here. So we're gonna be checking out a bit of an older video. It is a breakdown for Tales of the Jedi that I wanted to check out with you guys because, you know, I wanted to give you all something over here as far as that's concerned. I've had some questions because some people have not even noticed up until this point that they were like, "Where's your Tales of the Jedi reactions?" I remember watching the trailer and you haven't done any. Well, I have. They are over on the Real Rejects channel. I ended up, to try to make it a little bit easier, on the main page of our channel, I made a playlist that goes to those videos to help out. I made a community post, but I know not everybody sees those. So guys, if you are curious where my reactions are to Tales of the Jedi, make sure you're subscribed to the Real Rejects because me and Greg watched each and every episode the night that they came out. So go check those reactions out. I'd love to see what you guys think. But with that said, guys, we're going to be checking out New Rockstar's breakdown on the series of shorts. You know, I know typically, unless it's one of the larger shows, I don't do these breakdown reactions for them because generally I don't miss that many Star Wars references in the background unless it's just the Arabesh and a lot of the settings and scenes, because I could translate it. I know most of it, but I just don't have the time to do that. So that's one of the main reasons I usually steer that a lot of the times the breakdowns that we do is usually for Marvel and stuff, because I have a very limited Marvel knowledge when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I love seeing those kind of breakdowns and learning a little bit more about the universes and stuff. But with Star Wars, I usually kind of keep it to some of the more obscure things or some of the bigger shows where there's a little more, where they're a little more intricate about how they weave in some of these things. So that said, another excuse was just because to tell you guys where to actually find the reactions. So with that said, guys, let's go ahead and dive into New Rockstar's breakdown of Tales of the Jedi. If you are not subscribed to New Rockstars, please do so. They are great. They are an amazing breakdown channel, and they also have some great Star Wars themed merch. I get a lot of their shirts, man. They have some great designs and all that, and they're great fits, man. With that all said, here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and this is a breakdown of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, all 6 episodes of the first season. This series definitely caught me by
I hope we get
surprise.
more, man. I hope we do.
Arcs, the backstories of Ahsoka Tano and Count Dooku.
Yes.
Yaddle, so many characters.
Oh,
and by the way,
Yaddle.
Count Dooku is kind of Ahsoka's great-great-grandmaster. Like Dooku taught Qui-gon, Qui-gon taught obi-wan,
That
Obi-Wan
is
taught Anakin,
true.
Anakin taught Ahsoka, and then, well, I guess to extend that forward, Ahsoka kind of taught Luke. It was implied.
Yeah.
Luke definitely taught Grogu, and Grogu teaches us all how to love.
Oh.
For real though, this series ties in with
That
Clone
is
Wars
such
and
a like
Menace, the
weird
upcoming
thread to
Ahsoka series.
pull.
Even
It does
answers
all
questions
go
about
back
Grogu
to,
during Order 66. So let's break
you know, it goes all the way back to Dooku, like he said, but then Dooku learned most of his craziness from Yoda. He was Yoda's Padawan. As short-lived as that may have been. So that's pretty interesting, man.
down all the Star Wars
I never really
Easter eggs
thought
that you
about
might have
that.
missed. Starting with episode 1, Life and Death, a title that also underscores the duality at the core of the series, the birth at the bottom of that mentorship chain, Ahsoka Tano, and the death at the paternal top of it, Dooku, when his
yeah.
relationship with the Force completely severs. Now the fanfare at the start of every episode includes red and blue lightsabers reflecting off metallic faces. We see Grievous, Bucket from Resistance, Chopper, Crosshair from Bad Batch, a Commando battle droid, an Imperial combat driver, then Wrecker from Bad Batch, then the helmet of Bo-Katan, and then Hunter from Bad Batch.
Hell
We
yeah.
the birth of Ahsoka Tano on the planet Chili in 36 BBY. That's Ahsoka's reported birth date based on the Clone Wars timeline. Prior to this, the earliest we had seen Ahsoka was at the age of 3 in flashbacks with Plo Koon, the Jedi Master who abducts, recruits Ahsoka to the Jedi Order. Baby Ahsoka cries off screen while her father, Nak-Il, calls to the others in the Togruta language of Togruti.
Yakamiso! Yakamiso! Ay! She's here! She's here!
Yeah, Yakami Soul in context probably means she's born or it's a girl, but it sounds like they worked in the term soul, which in Spanish and other Latin-based languages translates to sun. So maybe the Togruti language may equate childbirth with a sunrise. He bows to the village elder, Gantika, who compared to the others has this face with far more texture and definition. She looks like the brushstrokes of a painting. Gantika also has adorned her clothes with animal bones, suggesting she's an experienced hunter who has taken many many children on ceremonial hunts over the years. Baby Ahsoka only has 4 facial markings at first. Togrutta's facial markings change as they age, like Ahsoka in Clone Wars changes over the years when we see her in Rebels, and her markings were different at age 3 when she met Plo Koon. But a year later, a bird lands on their roof. We see these blue birds later in the forest, but it reminds me of the Morai bird, who later in Ahsoka's life will accompany her, representing the spirit of the daughter. These Togrutas use droids and blasters.
That might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'll go with it.
Was able to resist joining the Republic for centuries. Gantika feeds a few raccoon-looking dogs with faces resembling those of Lothcats.
Yeah.
She anoints Ahsoka and Pop-T.
It reminded me, and I mentioned this in the reaction, it's like, that's a new Pokemon right there, because you have, like, it just reminded me of, like, regional variants and stuff like that, like, where you'd have, like, a very similar looking Pokemon over here, like a Lothcat, and then over here, it's very similar, but a little different, and it's these little panda things. I love that stuff, man.
With paint for luck on their hunt. Pop-T and Ahsoka hunt Kaibucks. These are the herd animals originally from Kashyyyk and Legends continuity, the old Cartoon Network Star Wars Clone Wars series, but reintroduced in canon in the Rise of Skywalker visual dictionary. Ahsoka takes in a squirrel and all the fauna of the forest, showing
also he's got Revan in there too, which it made me happy.
From Ezra Bridger taming the Furnock to Grogu taming the Rancor in the Book of Boba Fett. Pop-T gives Ahsoka 2 key lessons about
beast control is also a major forte of Obi-Wan Kenobi as well. Anakin somewhat, for sure, but mostly Obi-Wan.
Death.
Look, Ahsoka. Everywhere there is life. Value it. Honor it. You must face death, Ahsoka. Do not fear it.
Yes, value life, face death. And to demonstrate that, Pop-T wears Ahsoka not as a backpack, but as a Bjorn on her chest, so that the baby is right up in there when the Kaibuck is stabbed. But Pop-T senses a saber-tooth stalking them, and her nostril flares just a bit, showing how these Togrutas have their own natural fight-or-flight instincts.
It's a nice
While
little
Pop-T
detail.
told Ahsoka that she would carry her home, it's actually the saber-tooth who carries Ahsoka home, giving the Togrutans a legend that they would all tell each other over the years and marking Ahsoka as a special one.
Jedi. Ahsoka is Jedi.
This whole idea of a lost kid revealed to be beyond their years is a classic universal archetypal tale. In the New Testament, young Jesus is left at the temple and Mary and Joseph return to find him schooling the scholars. In the Old Testament, a lion attacks David, but David slays that lion with the might of God. And while the rest of this season is darker and more cynical in its depiction of the Star Wars society, I love that we start here to be reminded of the natural purity of the Force. Episode 2, Justice, opens with the Jedi T6 shuttle piloted by a young Dooku, voiced by Corey Burton, who also voiced Cad Bane in Zero the Hutt, and young Qui-Gon Jinn, designed to look like a younger Liam Neeson, and absolute snack. He's voiced by Micheál Richardson, Liam Neeson's real-life son. While it's not hard to recognize these characters, note that they are never actually named until the final exchange of the episode.
You're a much wiser man than I, Qui-Gon Jinn.
Thanks to your teachings.
And Dooku's name is never even said in the episode. For the uninitiated, this story does work as a universal tale of a Jedi Master tempted by darkness. If you didn't know who this character was, you'd just be like, oh, a Jedi who I might get along with. Oh, wait, he's a horrible villain? He's really not that horrible. I mean, compared to all the other dirtbags in this story. They land in his birth.
It just perfectly shows how Dooku's disillusionment with the Jedi Order and the Republic fosters. Like, it builds a lot off of Jedi Lost, the Dooku novel, and then like just takes that a little bit further with these little very specific and thought out little incidents that help just kind of give him the necessary nudge towards the path that he was going to be set on. It was such a gracious fall from the light that they depicted in this, and it just makes you sympathize with him so much in these short little windows, because at the end of the day, you kind of agree with him in the end until certain things begin to happen.
Out clearing, watched over by thin
like you can
birds,
understand
like of the Steelpackers from Force Awakens and Andor,
why he does what he does.
One last stack for that tow cart, in contrast with the droid in Episode 5, who was in its prime, showing how this land has been truly scoured for the last of its resources. And there's such great animation detail in this rotting town, mud puddles, flies everywhere, that poor dog with the ribs showing, the silhouettes in the windows.
Oh, I didn't even notice it had a rib showing.
With that dog will later be the one who starving for food.
Oh no, it just meant it was starving and not an actual rib protruding.
Cantina, which the Lucasfilm team will later repurpose as the heads of the IG assassin droids. The elder woman is voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who voices Harrison Dula in Rebels.
Oh, he also, just thinking about this, he missed that Ahsoka's mom in the first episode was voiced by the same voice actor who played what's her name? Iden in Battlefront 2.
Allow me to make my intentions clear.
Jedi.
Dooku opens his cape in a flourish, similar to Christopher Lee's gestures in Attack of the Clones, and his lightsaber, though blue-bladed, we'll later see, has the same curved hilt as his red saber later will, and Qui-Gon's lightsaber is the same green one that he wields in Phantom Menace. Based on Qui-Gon's age, though, this is likely the earliest we have seen in Star Wars canon on screen, because this would be a few decades before Phantom Menace. And I like how this episode shows that, with the townspeople's clothes looking like old-world European. I don't think we've really seen this wardrobe design in Star Wars before. Senator Dagonet's son is voiced by Josh Keaton, who voiced Skinny Steve in Marvel's What If. He's guarded by Teuton, a binary lifter droid, and this son, like Clark Griswold's boss's wife in Christmas Vacation, sympathizes with the kidnappers. These kidnappers looking hungry enough to actually want a subscription to the Jelly of the Month Club. Senator Dagonet is voiced by Mark Rolston, longtime actor from Shawshank Redemption and Aliens. Actually, another Shawshank actor, longtime voice actor Clancy Brown, voices his brother in the final episode. The senator has with him an RA-7 protocol droid, and he and his soldiers dress in blue and gold finery, kind of looking like those goofy Swiss Guard outfits. The senator says,
"You serve the Senate." "No. We serve the people of this republic."
As they
Dooku,
should.
As a Jedi, came from a wealthy family, and he's actually retained a relationship with a sister, which, Jedi are not supposed to do. So he's always been more of a rule breaker, an idealist following his own code. He ignites his lightsaber down and to the side.
Following his own code, yet, oddly enough, adhering to what the Jedi should be doing in a lot of ways. He's like this nice blend, which shows how he imprints upon Qui-Gon, where Qui-Gon, I think, is the perfect manifestation of his rebelliousness and his freedom from the code while his adherence to the Force. I think Qui-Gon took all the right lessons from Dooku, despite how things went, and was honestly the perfect Jedi. He was detached and followed the Force, not the politics, not the Republic, not the Council at times, when it varied and separated itself from the path of the Force and of the Jedi Code itself, which is another huge thing that splintered Anakin early on, was the loss of Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was the master he needed, but the Duel of the Fates took place, and, well, Qui-Gon lost.
And as he repels the blast, he once again uses the wide flourish as a Form 2 lightsaber combat. This is the one more akin to fencing. The light on Dooku's face is really well done this episode, from the table light in the tavern, and now with a lightsaber glow. It moves from one side of his face to the other, reflecting his shifting resolve as he decides to force choke the senator. And Kevin Kiner's music and the sound design is just so excellent here and throughout the series.
Yes.
Corruption like yours must be eradicated.
There's so many great artistic details like that throughout this entire thing that me and Greg, I think we struggled to talk about it because it was so late, but like we talked about like how this all felt like an actual artistically driven short film. Like these each were very cinematic. They were very much using their art direction and the visual storytelling to get across what they don't want to waste words on, and it's just so expertly done, and that's a great example of it.
No!
Almost like the shift of the colors on Anakin's face at the final episode of Obi-Wan, when he turns to say that he killed Anakin, then it shifts from the blue light to the red.
Stop!
So good.
Master, it's over.
Just Qui-Gon pulling him back.
What we thought was a gusting wind was actually the sound of the dark side of the Force coursing through Dooku, finally silenced when he releases his grip. They leave behind some forces to help the villagers, and one of those soldiers pets the rib dog. Aww. Dooku tells Qui-Gon that he's a much wiser man than he is, which is something Qui-Gon will later tell his apprentice in Phantom Menace.
You've been a good apprentice, Obi-Wan. And you're a much wiser man than I am.
Don't lie to him, Qui-Gon. We all know he's not,
Episode 3, Choices, follows Dooku and Mace Windu. T.C. Carson returning to voice the role from Clone Wars. They're headed to Raxus Secundus to retrieve the body of Jedi Master Katri. The screen shows that she's a Moralian race like Luminar Unduli, and the Orbesh reads Master Katri. Now, Raxus Secundus showed up in Clone Wars and Bad Batch. During the Clone Wars, this will join the Separatists, and we actually see that anti-Republic sentiment here. They're greeted by Hanel, who has a scar across his lips, and later...
Don't each one of these locations eventually join the Separatists? Because that would link them to Dooku and these events if that was the case. I don't remember the first world, to be completely honest. Yeah, because there's so much in the Clone Wars and so many places you go, I can't remember all of it. But like, I'm pretty sure that these little touches, these places that they visit, eventually Dooku revisits when he's working with the Separatist movement.
Charles.
You and all of the Senate puppets will see a reckoning.
This is voice actor Andrew Kashino, who voices Saw Gerrera in Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Saw also shows up in Bad Batch and Rebels with the scar across his face. As they chat with Senator Larrick, Hanel and Samaj stand behind them, glowering at Larrick to make sure he plays along. Hanel even turns his head just a little bit when Dooku suggests wanting to see where Katri died. Dooku and Windu sense something is off, and Windu wants to take it back to the council, but Dooku's like, we're gonna investigate this alone. And they notice the burn marks and lightsaber slashes on the trees, but nothing on the ships. This leads to a shootout with the guards and some Raxus battle droids. Samaj explains how Larrick, like the Senator Dagonet, was corruptly putting his own personal interests ahead of his people. Each of these episodes really shows how Dooku adopts separatist philosophy.
Jedi are lapdogs of the Senate. Their bidding always comes first.
Well, the thing is, with the placement of these, if you read the book at all about his backstory and all that, he's already, and we talked about this as well in our reaction, was that every one of these events, Dooku already has this lack of faith in the Jedi mission as it stands now because of things that have happened in the past, prior to any of these scenes that we've seen in here, prior to him taking on an apprentice, before he was ever even a master to begin with. He's already had these seeds of doubt planted. So every new piece of information just reconfirms his position. Like, you can see how, Mace not having this disillusionment has a completely different read on each situation. And then Dooku, having experienced what he experiences, he sees the exact same thing, but that thing confirms his pre-existing theories and thoughts and feelings, kind of giving him confirmation on his, validating his viewpoints and kind of further pushing him down that line. And I really like that. I was reading Dooku Jedi Lost before this came out, because I knew a lot of it was going to be about younger Dooku, and I wanted to get a nice taste on what they've been doing with him as of late. Oh, it's so good, man.
It's evident throughout the galaxy. Jedi claim peace, but mostly keep law and order for the rich and powerful.
Later in this episode, Dooku tells Samaj that his ideology has points,
and they don't even know it.
And he asks Windu,
do you think the Jedi will truly keep peace if they continue to take everything the Senate says as law?
Back on Coruscant, they bury Katri. The casket lowers into the floor and then shoots up in a beam of light like a lightsaber. I'm guessing it's being incinerated and just releases this blinding light as a result of the fire. We see Yoda,
yeah, I was really
Plo
curious
Koon,
about this whole thing.
Jocasta Nu outside later, Stacey Tin, and Tara Sinube, the mentor Jedi, whose corpse tragically ends up in the Fortress Inquisitorius in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. Dooku learns Windu is being offered Katri's seat on the High Council and asks if he knew before they went to Raxus. We see how his ego is stung as his ambitions are being slighted. On to episode 4, The Sith Lord. Dooku's beard is now a bit grayer because this is several years later. He slips into the back room of the Jedi Temple archives and accesses the file using Sifo Dyas's access code to erase the listing for Kamino. This builds in what Obi-Wan investigates in Attack of the Clones, Kamino being erased from the archive star map.
And subsequently results in Obi-Wan getting chastised by a bunch of children for not being able to find a planet. God, that moment still irks me with the whole Jocasta Nu thing. He's like, if it's not in the Jedi archive, then it does not exist. Oh my God, that one line made me just...
Sifo Dyas was a friend of Dooku's who had a premonition of a great war and secretly commissions a clone army that Darth Sidious will later seize control of by having Dooku use the pikes to kill off Sifo Dyas.
Yep, another example of why that the Jedi no longer really delve into prophecy. by trying to prevent it in a lot of ways, they end up bringing it about. You know, he orders this army. He tries to prevent this thing from happening, but in turn, it still unfolds. Every time that a Jedi sees the future, they just make it happen. I cannot think of a time it hasn't.
Dooku greets
I don't know.
Tanu, who spoke of Dooku in a deleted scene from Attack of the Clones. Here she mentions Qui-Gon's running with the Sith on Tatooine, placing this episode in the middle of Phantom Menace, where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan bring Anakin to the Jedi Temple. Qui-Gon chats with Yaddle, who at this point was part of the Jedi High Council, but was not present at the end of Phantom Menace at Qui-Gon's funeral on Naboo. They say,
I guess word travels fast.
Well,
Yep.
statements to
She just
council
mysteriously
are
disappears.
surprising.
Wonder why.
is now voiced by Liam Neeson himself, who also cameoed in the final scene of Obi-Wan Kenobi. I would not be surprised if Lucasfilm's like, hey, while you're here in the green screen, could you come over here in the audio booth and recruit some lines? Thanks. Meanwhile, Yaddle is voiced by Bryce Dallas Howard, who has directed a lot of better episodes of The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. This is the first time we've heard Yaddle speak, and she does not invert her syntax the way Yoda does, showing that his speech isn't really a product of his race, but just rather unique to him.
That just makes me wonder, like what the reasoning is there for his language. And I brought that up in there. I was like, was Yoda just dropped on his head? Like, what is that? Or is he just messing with everybody? That would be very Yoda to just be screwing with everybody and make it into this lifelong prank.
Dooku warns Qui-Gon about the Sith Lord, saying that he won't be there to protect him, and indeed, Maul will be the end of Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon compliments Obi-Wan, and Dooku says that he'd like to meet Obi-Wan someday, and indeed, they will meet in Attack of the Clones, and how. Now, this interaction here is at sunset, which, in Phantom Menace, is when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan chat on the terrace, and the High Council, including Yaddle, tests Anakin by himself. So Qui-Gon must be on his way up to chat with Obi-Wan, and Yaddle is on her way to test Anakin. It's fun to think that the day Obi-Wan brought Anakin into the temple is the day that Dooku erased Kamino from the archives.
Yeah.
Dooku says,
They grow up so fast. Our students.
Yes, it is the way of things.
yes, this parallels Yoda's amazing line to Luke in The Last Jedi.
We are what they grow beyond.
Later, after the final battle of Phantom Menace, Dooku mourns Qui-Gon at the Great Force Tree in the Jedi Temple courtyard. This location has shown up in Clone Wars. The tree's leaves are dying, symbolizing all these characters being in the twilight of the Jedi's dominance. And this tree is a very, very big deal. Palpatine destroys most of the Jedi relics when he takes over the temple, but he keeps 2 twigs of this tree. The story of Shattered Empire explores how Luke Skywalker recovers these and keeps one of them, but he gives the other to Lieutenant Shara Bey and her husband, Kes Dameron. They plant it outside of their home on Yavin 4, and their son is Poe Dameron, who plays on that Force tree as a kid and nearly burns it down. Now, this did lead to some theories in the sequel trilogy era that Poe might be Force sensitive, and that's why he's such a good pilot.
I remember hearing about all those.
But the Force might have guided him to meet the right people, and I like to think the tree might have had something to do with it. Yaddle says,
The council is leaving for Naboo. The funeral is to be held there.
And since she follows Dooku, she never makes it to the funeral, explaining why she wasn't there for the funeral in Phantom Menace. They both head out to the industrial regions of Coruscant, where Dooku met with Sidious in Attack of the Clones, and here Dooku and Sidious debate.
You've gone too far.
I don't know what you mean.
Yep, that is Ian McDiarmid coming back to voice Sidious here. And in the background, we hear this opera soprano recalling the opera house where Palpatine told Anakin the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. We learn that Dooku wanted Qui-Gon as a potential ally, referring to Qui-Gon's fixation on the Living Force, his defiance of the High Council. Dooku really thought he could flip Qui-Gon, which is super interesting. But Sidious saw Qui-Gon as only a potential ally to Dooku, showing how Sidious is grounded in the Sith rule of 2. He never trusts his apprentice to take on another apprentice, because then those 2 could gang up on him.
And I don't believe that Dooku ever really truly sided with Sidious during this entire thing, because he always kind of like saw that as a temporary thing, but he got so... his hubris grew so much with the dark side influence that he couldn't see that Sidious was always plotting to replace him the entire time. Like any other Sith, the goal is to always overthrow the master, hence the rule of 2. With that, we have Vader always trying to recruit somebody to help him take down Palpatine, or orchestrate some way to take out Palpatine. You know, it's always the goal of the apprentice to kill and supersede the master. And I think he at one point thought that maybe he and Qui-Gon, and even though he knew that Obi-Wan wouldn't side with him, I think he hoped beyond hope that maybe he would in Attack of the Clones. Even though he knew what he was saying was so unbelievable, Obi-Wan wouldn't believe it. But I think some part of him probably wanted or hoped that maybe he would join him. And I think had anybody maybe sided with him or allowed him that hand out, they would have taken down Palpatine. But that still doesn't mean he'd stop his separatist movement. He would have kept doing that because that's truly what he believed in, was that. But he was just another pawn on the board. Oh, it's so interesting. And I think, yeah, Sidious was very right to like be like, I don't know about Qui-Gon. That seems like I'm giving you a little too much leeway here. But then again, like I said, Qui-Gon, though, is like the pinnacle, perfect balance of all these things. While Dooku tried, and maybe at one point could have been, has just went too far into the dark side.
And replace him. Dooku's offended by this.
You question my loyalty? Always.
Yes, it is a Sith's nature to always be distrustful of his apprentice. Yaddle confronts them and tries to turn Dooku against Sidious.
I'm afraid.
I know you are.
I'm afraid it is
This
too late.
scene broke my heart, man.
And the saber glow again shifts from one side of Dooku's face to the other. This moment also parallels Han Solo and Force Awakens.
It's too
What the
No,
fuck was that?
Leave here with me. Come home. I miss you.
I'm being torn apart. I want to be free of this pain.
Was that his
I know what I have
attempt
to
at
do, but I don't know if I have the strength
Han
to do it.
screaming Ben?
Just when you think they're gonna come back to the light, you realize the true struggle they're having is with stifling the last of the goodness inside of them. Their duel mirrors Yoda and Dooku's duel in Attack the Clones. Yaddle using similar flips and leaps. Dooku closes the gate on her, which lowers like the teeth of a gaping mouth.
Yep.
Sidious's mouth smiling at her, devouring all the Jedi. Sidious, thinking he's triumphant, says,
Rise, my friend.
just like Sidious will say to Anakin after Anakin proves his loyalty by turning on a Jedi, in that case Mace Windu.
Very, very
When
similar
Yaddle's the one
scenes.
who rises, she rises the gate, and we hear John Williams' Force theme. And remember, before, she was able to survive by squeezing into the gap between the teeth, just giving her a little bit more room to work with. And when light floods into the room, Palpatine
Yeah.
covers his face.
Yep.
Because, just in case Yaddle's able to survive this or jump away to safety, he had just been closer to the light and exposed his full face, and he does not want her to see his identity and connect that Palpatine and Sidious are the same person.
And just the idea of the light. This room, this disparate place off in the outskirts of Coruscant where no one resides, where they meet in secret, is a place of darkness. And she's like literally holding open like the last sliver of light into this room before the darkness can consume Dooku. You even see like the way Dooku looks at Yaddle lifting it back up, as there's like a little bit, you could like see in his eyes and in his expression, like there's some relief that she didn't just die. Like some part of him was like, oh, thank God. And then that light, and he's seeing it is cracking through, washing over his face, and he's just looking into it directly while Sidious is like, meh, because he is pure darkness, man. So like there's still that conflict in Dooku, but when she stumbles out, drops, the light dissipates. That's when he makes his choice. When the light is gone, the light is no longer present.
And then the final tragic exchange.
I want only to bring peace and order to the galaxy.
Already so many have suffered for what you call order.
Then let me give you peace, Master Yaddle.
Yeah, you can really hear that guttural bass in Corey Burton's voice on
Yeah.
the word peace, channeling the cold-bloodedness that we hear in Cad Bane. And yes, Yaddle's death here does remove her from possibility as a possible rescuer of Grogu from the Jedi Temple during Order
That is
66. She may have known his existence, but she was not the one who got him out of the temple. On to episode 5, Practice Makes Perfect. Anakin watches Ahsoka train in the Jedi Temple with some remote droids. Yoda is there, Mace Windu, Plo Koon, Obi-Wan, and then over on the other side, Diva B'Alaba and her apprentice
Yep.
Caleb Doom.
Yep.
Now, Ahsoka is being trained by Tara Sunube, whom Ahsoka meets in the Clone Wars Season 2 episode Lightsaber Lost. I think this is taking taking place after that. Maybe a year and a half.
I've been
into the war,
rewatching
because
Clone
notice
Wars,
Ahsoka's
too.
outfit is a mix between her tube top from the Clone Wars movie through the end of season 2. She doesn't have the tube top here, but she still has her white leggings from that era. So she's kind of in between the costume redesign, and that's why she's only using one lightsaber still here. However, Obi-Wan's hair is back to being long as it was during the Attack of the Clones movie, even though it should be shorter from this era of the Clone Wars animated series. Caleb marvels at Ahsoka's moves,
good point.
even though these two characters seem to meet for the first time in Rebels. But who knows? This kid went through a lot of trauma, probably saw like dozens of skills.
He probably blacked that out. To be honest, after everything.
Jedi at the temple. But Anakin thinks his test is a bunch of bullshit. So he takes her to a real test with Captain Rex, having grown clone troopers stun a teenager over and over. But hey, it ends up helping her in Order 66, so I guess abusive teaching is worth it.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Rushing or dragging?
Rushing.
So you do know the difference.
Captain Rex and the other clone troopers, including Jesse, use the blue blast stun setting that we saw used on Leia in A New Hope. I like how Ahsoka's confidence actually helps her at first. In the first round, she senses the first shooter and repels several blasts until getting tagged eventually on the 5th one. But round after round, she actually gets worse at it. The second time, they get her in 3 blasts, then 2 the next time, and her eyelids hang lower and lower. The next time, it's just 2 quick blasts, and then the editing makes it seem like it's 1 after that. But then she gets this pep talk from Anakin.
I want it to be difficult. This is about life and death.
Life and Death, the title of episode 1, returning Ahsoka to her original lessons of natural balance. And notice how this round she crushes it. So we jump ahead several years to a different base well into the Clone Wars. Ahsoka's white leggings are gone. She's now just wearing the full redesign outfit from season 3 onward, and she now has her second lightsaber that she started using at that point. The 501st have all now painted their armor blue. It seems like Ahsoka has scheduled these sessions on her own now. She successfully repels and stuns. She does a mid-air roll just as she did with the training remote droids earlier, showing she is just as strong against clone troopers as she is against battle droids. And so we end this episode in this fascinating place on the same ship in the final episode of Clone Wars. This tiny little moment after Ahsoka has removed Rex's chip, and this is when Rex was pretending to still be under Order 66 brainwash, so he could escort Ahsoka as a prisoner in front of the other clone troopers before they turn on them and escape. And in this little moment, Rex says,
"Let's hope all that training pays off."
Yeah, we did not hear this in the Clone Wars finale episode, but there was enough time for them to say it. And I love how Dave Filoni keeps doing this, keeps looping back and back and back on the events of Order 66 to just fit in these little grace notes for each of these characters.
It's so good. And it took me, oh my God, this is an example of me and Greg just being really fucking tired. We were like, why are we jumping to this point? It clicked later when we were talking in the, like, after the reaction or whatever. We were like, duh. Because this is the longest she's going to have to survive a consecutive onslaught from the clones, proving and being like the pinnacle of Anakin's initial training. I need this to be difficult. I need this to be hard because this is a matter of life and death. I need you to be able to survive. And we see like the last time, like he was talking about the time skip before this, she was able to last 5 minutes against the clones before they were able to take her down. And in this whole sequence, years later, she's going to have to push that to the limit and last a lot longer against a lot more clones. And without that training, without Anakin, had she just did the normal Jedi way, she would have died with the rest of the Jedi here.
Case, this episode suggests that the skills Ahsoka used to escape Order 66 were initially inspired by Anakin, who is now, ironically, the tip of the Order 66 spear. But this is truly a skill continued and mastered without Anakin's guidance. Just Ahsoka and Rex working together. Sessions
Anakin was over there.
Discipline. And then on to the final episode, episode 6, Resolve. We see Padme's funeral on Naboo, which was shown during the epilogue of Revenge of the Sith. In the crowd, we see Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, and Bail sees across the way Ahsoka. Ahsoka, what are you thinking? Why are you showing up here? I get it, you wanted more Padme, but it was really stupid to go here. Now, this is actually an alteration from Ahsoka's timeline in the Ahsoka novel by E.K. Johnston, which doesn't really have Bail and Ahsoka meeting each other until much later. But Dave Filoni said that he based this episode on the same general outline that he put together for the Ahsoka novel. In his mind, they're roughly the same story, even if some of the details are different. I guess I agree, this is just a condensed version of the novel. But that novel is really good. I would have enjoyed having a bit more time living in that era of Ahsoka's life, rather than just like 14 minutes. Bail tells Ahsoka,
"There's nothing you could have done."
It's just another example of Dave just kind of being like, oh, that stuff over there was cool, but I'm still going to do what I want to do with it. You know, like, this isn't the first time he's kind of decanonized some moments from whether it be the comics or some of the novels and stuff like that. So a lot of people, again, are a little upset about that, but I'm sorry. The books to me are supplementary. The comics to me are supplementary. Whatever we see on screen, whether it be in animated form or live action form, that's canon to me.
For either of them.
He's referring to both Padme and Anakin. Anakin, whom Ahsoka at this point assumes died in Order 66. It's not until Rebels she realized that Anakin and Vader are the same person. Bail leaves Ahsoka a comlink and gives Ahsoka some doublespeak to contact him if she ever needs anything. And a big mistake to say this to the clone troopers because now they're gonna hit him up for like concert tickets and shit. Ahsoka and Rex leave in a BTL S3 Y-Wing starfighter, the precursor to the Y-Wing in the later era. We catch up with Ahsoka on a farm planet, which is not specifically Rada, but it seems to be like roughly based on it. She goes by the name Ashla, as she does in the novel. Ashla is the name of a lot of things in Star Wars. It's the name of a moon of Tython. Ashla is also a name given to the light side of the Force, but she might have actually chosen it because there was another Togruta girl in the Jedi Temple named Ashla during the time of Attack of the Clones. The farmers worry about not being able to keep up with Imperial quotas, but this jerk kid praises Palpatine.
Emperor Palpatine brought peace.
It's a lot like the senators and Andor who compliment Palpatine for protecting them and saying what he means. Ahsoka's Force sensitivity is exposed, and so when she returns to the village, she finds the Inquisitor, the sixth brother, waiting for them, having
a redesign of the sixth brother, by the way.
I mentioned this guy a few times in my Obi-Wan Kenobi breakdowns. He's the one who finds Ahsoka in the novel, and here he looks incredible. He's got this awesome...
He's just nameless Inquisitor, though. Like, they don't even credit him as sixth brother in the credits to this episode. I think it's just another one of those things they wanted to mimic from the book, but they drastically changed because he looks completely different from the one that was in the illustrations for the book itself. But
the mask, he is hooded. He's got a cloak with the Imperial crest on it. Who do we
so
know
badass,
one
though.
Of the Inquisitors in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series look like this. Now the kyber crystals of his twin blades,
the most badass one,
that Ahsoka turns into her twin white blades in Rebels and in Mandalorian. Ahsoka saves the kid not by moving the sixth brother, but by throwing the kid out of the way. God, I imagine she took some satisfaction tossing him aside. And like great samurai films, this duel is short but perfect. Just 3 to 4 swings, then Ahsoka grabs the
whoops his ass.
Finishes him off. There's way
like
more
Obi-Wan and Maul.
Dueling, and it's far more effective that way. Kind of like that final short duel in Kill Bill Volume 1. But really, this reminds me of when Maul finds Obi-Wan on Tatooine in Rebels. Their final duel. Remember how short that was? Just a few swift moves and the fight is over. And that's all you really need. In fact, that's how long it would be for Ahsoka.
Shows the gap in skill between them two.
Against freaking Maul on Mandalore in the Clone Wars final season. Inquisitors, remember, are trained.
I think because I know a lot of people were like, how's she holding her own against Maul so easily in the final season or whatever? And I love that last little bit, the last episode before this about her training. I think that's another great representation of why she's so different from a lot of the other Jedi that have faced off against a lot of these characters. Like Anakin said, he was not going to let her fall to being ill-equipped to survive. So he was going to make damn sure if he's one of the best fighters out there, his Padawan's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with anyone. And yeah, he made that happen.
By Vader, and not the best of Vader. They're trained by Vader's abuse, whereas Ahsoka was trained by the best of Anakin.
That's such a good...
And I guess a bit of Anakin's abuse.
Parallel. That's not abuse. That is discipline.
Again, I love this series so much. I can't believe how much lore and deeper meaning they're able to pack into all of this. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at EAVOS. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
That's such a great breakdown, man. That's one of the things that I do appreciate about the channel. Like, it's not all Easter eggs, which is one of the main things that made this a lot of fun and why I was wanting to check it out as well. Was because it was so artistically driven, and when there aren't Easter eggs to dive into, Eric and his team will dive into the visual storytelling and break down the scene composition, the lighting, the set design, the framing, and all that, and show how the scenes, without words, without whatever, tell the story and enhance the story. And there's a lot of things that I did pick up on, at least with the visual side of things, but there's a lot of nice little details throughout that I didn't catch. Which I'm surprised, because I was not surprised because Greg and I, like I said, we were really tired when we fucking recorded those videos. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Like, they were short, sweet, beautiful. I absolutely would love more stuff like this. whatever Dave does Star Wars wise, I'm going to be there for. I love his perspective on this universe. I love his take. I love his grasp on George's world. Yeah, he's got it, man. If there was ever a master and apprentice of Star Wars, it was Lucas and his apprentice, now master, Dave Filoni. Ah, so good. Anyway, guys, what did you think? What did you think of Tales of the Jedi? What was your favorite episodes? What are some of your favorite moments? And if they were to do a season 2, who would you like it to be about? Would you like a Tales of the Sith? Or what Jedi would you like to see a follow-up on in a season 2? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Remember to subscribe to New Rockstars if you're not already. And before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends. Manny Sher, Ryan Karen, Philly Vane, Yori Korskov, Margaret Grace, Melita, Robert Anguiano, Raven McCann, Jeffrey Hale, and M. Sephiroth. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. That's it for this video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one. May the Force be with you always. Take care, everybody.